Catradora, while a good ship, could have been written so much better, and Catradora shippers are the most annoying people in the world. Here's why! Hey, it's Sunny here, and this is a topic I have had on my mind for a while, but because I was lazy, I haven't made a video about this topic. But then I decided to do the worst thing possible. I went and saw Shira TikTok and Twitter, the place where a bunch of 13 and 15-year-olds give their shitty and somewhat problematic opinions about the show. Yeah, it's bad, but I'm not gonna show you that dumpster fire. Yet at least. We are gonna talk about Catradora, and how since it's been a year since the ship was canon, seeing how the ship holds up, specifically with the writing, characterization, story, and comparing it to other enemies to lover ships, and then at the end, shitting on Catradora shippers. This video is gonna be fun and validating, but enough of my bullshit, let's talk about is the story of the ship good without looking at the writing or characterization? Yes. The story and just the story concept in general, it's a very fucking good one. And it's everything I ever wanted in a complicated ship like this. If you haven't watched Shira, I'm gonna go into a lot of spoilers about it, and I'm not gonna really recap much about the show because I feel like a lot of y'all have watched it. But if you haven't, just go watch the show. But if you just kind of want a general idea of the ship and what I'm about to talk about, just rewatch the episodes The Sword Part 1 and Part 2, Raz, The Seagate, The End of Flowers for Shira, Princess Prom, basically the last 5 episodes of Season 1, Whiteout, Light Spinner, Reunion, literally every episode in Season 3 except for maybe Hantara, and literally every episode in Season 4 and in Season 5. But anyways, back on track. The idea of two people that clearly love each other and want to be with each other, starting out as friends and then growing into something more, but both haven't acted on their feelings because they don't realize how much they actually love each other, then to get pulled apart due to their own personal morals and be separated for a long time while they're apart trying to figure out their emotional issues and trying to grow from it, but becoming more distant and bitter towards each other because of the abuse they both suffered from their mental figure, but not really reconnecting until after a couple years of them working out a lot of their emotional issues, but still struggling to connect with each other because they still have a lot of emotional issues, but they work it out to create a healthier relationship and are getting feelings for each other again, but things are still a little bit complicated. But then finally, being able to push through it, they finally get together, and while they still have a lot of stuff to work through, they are finally able to be happy and together, showing the idea that yes, two broken people can be together and learn to be better people, which, as a story concept, is an amazing idea. And it's even better when you know the context for the reason their relationship falls apart in the beginning and why it is so complicated, because you will definitely feel for these girls and understand why they are the way they are and why they are struggling with these things that they are struggling with. And it's amazing and I love it, and it's something I don't see a lot of shows do that I wish they did more of. But did they execute it well in the characterization and writing? Specifically parts with them being distant from each other and growing more distant. The characterization? Yes. The writing? Not so much. One thing I like about Shira, and is the best part of the show, is his characterization. It is so good at getting you to relate to characters and feel for them, and just to be so invested in them, even if you aren't invested in the story or writing. It's one of the show's greatest strengths. And they do it phenomenally well when it comes to Adora's and Catra's characters. Specifically when it comes to them loving each other but at the same time being really pissed off at each other. It makes a lot of sense. Adora has low confidence in herself. She sometimes doesn't think about the stuff that affects others, and she struggles with her self-worth. Because of her abuse, she's very much a people pleaser, and she struggles to kind of just let her friends be and not kind of just baby them sometimes. and be overly protective of them, which of course makes someone like Catra isolated and annoyed as someone who tries to be independent and tries to stand out because Adora has gotten so much privilege of being recognized by people, especially in the Horde, when Catra has worked just as hard as her. So it causes her to feel so much resentment against Adora at times, which mostly comes from the abuse Shadow Weaver gave them. Despite the fact that she loves Adora, which is why as much as we loved them in Season 1, the relationship wasn't healthy. When you think about it, it was kind of toxic because they never talked about how they felt with each other and mostly kept it inside, which is why Season 5 is so important for them, because it's the moments where they finally speak out about their issues and not just bottle them up. And just when you're watching them interact, especially in Season 5, it feels like you're watching an actual relationship. It feels like watching a realistic relationship, and it works. It isn't tinted with rose glasses, it's just a normal relationship. And I like that, and it's because of the characterization they have and how they interact with each other at times. But all my praises for the ship goes down when we talk about the writing and what actually happened in Seasons 2 through 4. As much as Catradora shippers don't want to admit it or get pissy at people for pointing it out, the way the relationship was written in those seasons was not good. It was really well written in Season 1 and amazingly written in Season 5, but it falls face first when we talk about the other seasons. Because then it becomes less of, oh, it's two people that grew apart, and it becomes more of somewhat abusive. One of the questions I've always had is, did they really need to make Catra literally talk about how much she wants to murder Adora and her friends to convey the message that she and Catra were growing distanced? Did we really need to see Catra literally hurting Adora to the point where she was fucking crying and getting traumatized by her to convey that? No, we didn't. It always just felt like this weird way to sexualize the ship when honestly all they could have done is just have moments without them trying to kill each other of them just flirting with each other to convey that. Like, it honestly just feels like a weird way for them to write really creepy scenes of Catra abusing Dora to weirdly sexualize them, specifically with Catra, and considering she's a person of color that they decided to sexualize and make overly abusive in the relationship, it is very problematic and disturbing for a bunch of reasons, but we don't have time to go over that today. But I will say it's weird that they decided to make the only Latina character the overly angry, abusive character, while her white love interest, which comes from a line of colonizers, gets to be the chosen hero who is overly dorky. Like, it was just so weird and disturbing to watch those scenes, like Catra being corrupted and chipped, and people weirdly sexualizing it. Especially as someone who has been abused, it is very weird to see y'all sexualizing that shit. But anytime you try to point these things out about it being bad and pointing out the bad writing, you always have some Catradora shippers being like,
well, that's the point, of course, it's supposed to be toxic.
And yeah, I get that. But did they really need multiple scenes of Catra literally physically hurting Adora to get that across that their relationship was toxic? And I think the reason people get really uncomfortable by it is that there wasn't like 2 to 3 seasons to develop the relationship besides the abusive parts. No. We get like 5 episodes, of which is why the relationship seems so rushed, along with Catra's redemption. Because they spent so much time on the show, on this fucking slow ass pace of just watching Catra go through hell and them hurting each other. By the time we get to Season 5, it felt like they were like, oh shit, we need these two to get together. Oh fuck, we need to redeem Catra. Oh shit. Not to mention, the fact that the show clearly wants to do stuff like messages about cutting ties off with toxic people in your life, but the problem is with them trying to do that is that they do it with Catra as a talking point. So it kind of undermines the Season 3 finale when Adora finally has the courage to stand up to Catra and cut her out of her life after realizing how horribly and terribly Catra has treated her over the last year or two. And literally in Season 5, after all that, she's suddenly like, I want her back in my life. And it feels like the problem is that they didn't give Adora agency. They just mostly focused on Catra and never gave Adora agency or any other kind of feelings in the scenes where she's back. They kind of just made Adora like, oh, okay, she's back, I love her again. Which just feels so out of place. Honestly, it would have been so much better if they focused the idea of cutting toxic people out of your life more on Shadow Weaver and less on Catra. I feel like the other creepy moments that they would have had wouldn't have happened if they focused the idea of cutting people out of your life that are toxic on Shadow Weaver instead of Catra, because she's the one who literally abused both Adora and Catra. And the shit in Discord about Catradora is so interesting when you compare it to so many other enemies to lovers ships. Which, speaking of, something I've wanted to talk about with the ship that I finally find very funny with Catradora shippers is when they say stuff like, oh, the ship is enemies to lovers, so of course it's abusive, when shit like Jinx's cyborg from Titans Go exists, because they are together and they are literally on different sides of the fighting teams, but they still hardly ever hurt each other. Most of the time you see them fighting, they're fighting other people, not each other, and most of the time you get to see them be cute and goofy and not them literally beating the shit out of each other. Like, if enemies to lovers must always be toxic, or it has to be toxic, then why does Glendora exist? Why does Jinx and Flash exist? Why does Zutara and Sokka x Zuko exist? Why does Tyrus exist? Why does Courtney and Gwen exist? Why does shit like Andy and Amber exist? Actually, hold on, let's go back to Zutara. It's actually very similar to the ship, at least it's similar to Catradora, but the reason it worked a lot better, besides the writers of Avatar in Season 3 making Aang an asshole to Kantara and making their relationship really weird, which made Zutara very appealing by comparison, the reason they worked so much better is because the fact that they didn't actually get together. Because the writers knew it would be a stupid idea to get them together when they only had 3 to 4 episodes of them finally becoming friends and being decent with each other. And honestly, considering how Shira was written, that's how Catradora should have went. But yeah, after all this shit, we still gotta talk about one more thing that honestly I don't see a lot of people talk about, which we definitely should be talking more about. When I tell you Catradora shippers are the most annoying shippers alive, would you believe me? They are literally the equivalent of what happened if you took stands from Twitter that stan artists, but put it with a ship. They are that bad. They get so defensive if you ship anything besides the canon ships, to the point where they will literally go under people's posts about something like Glendora and be like, and it's so annoying because A, multi-shippers exist, and multi-shipping is a thing, and B, who the fuck cares? Like, why do y'all care so fucking much about a goddamn ship between 2 cartoon characters that aren't even fucking real? It goes to the point where they try to say that the healthy relationships in the show are toxic when they aren't. The best example I can think of is people thinking Bo and Glimmer's relationship with Adora in Season 1 and Season 2 was toxic. Besides the obvious reasons of shippers just being better, people think Adora has better relationships with other people is the reason why they're making these criticisms and making these bad takes. First off, by the first 4 episodes, we clearly see how much they like her when she's not Shira, and her literally being so focused on Shira is what literally drives them away. In fact, that is the driving force of why Glimmer and her have so much conflict in Season 4. Besides Catra, I would assume Glimmer hates Shira most of the time. And secondly, literally most of the time, the things shippers show as the relationship being toxic, it's just them saying weird stuff because they're trying to help and relate to Adora and the abuse and stuff she's going through and has been through, but because they haven't been through the same stuff she has, they end up saying stuff that doesn't help because they don't know how to relate to her. It's something that happens a lot with people that have been abused and are friends with people that aren't abused, and it happens a lot with cis and trans people. Or, as I said in this tweet, and God forbid you try to criticize the ship or point out how you think a ship is better, because if you even think of doing that or pointing it out, be ready for a bunch of fucking stupid teenagers to harass you about it and completely miss the point of your goddamn video, because Catradora shippers have some of the most thickest skins alive and cannot handle criticism because they are so attached to a fictional ship that it's literally unhealthy. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that Catradora shippers suck ass and need to get their shit together. And while yes, I like Catradora and the characterization, I think the writing could have been so much better and honestly deserved better because I love the ship so much and I wanted it to be so fucking good. And it's sad that they had so much potential that they kind of wasted it on just seeing this poor girl keep having mental breakdowns over and over again. But yeah, this is Sunny, and I'm here saying, see you next time.